Have you ever noticed that aging doesn't just change your body? It quietly changes how you see everything. The way you look at people, the way you measure time, the way you understand what truly matters and what never really did. When you are young, life feels loud. You are busy proving yourself, chasing goals, running after approval, believing that if you just try harder, push further, and endure longer, everything will eventually make sense. But aging has a way of stripping away noise. Growing old is not simply about wrinkles, medications, or gray hair. It is about facing truths you once avoided because you were too busy surviving. It is about lessons that gently knock for years, and then, one day, demand to be heard. After 70, life stops pretending. There is no longer energy for illusions, no patience for false priorities, no desire to impress anyone who does not truly see you. The masks you once wore, for work, for society, for family, begin to fall away. Not because you failed, but because you finally earned the right to put them down. You begin to see life clearly, not through ambition, not through fear, but through experience. You realize that many of the things you worried about for decades never truly mattered. And some of the things you postponed were the only things that ever did. For many people, this realization feels bitter. It arrives quietly, often late at night, in moments of silence. It comes with memories, with regrets, with questions that no longer need answers, but acceptance. And that bitterness can feel heavy if you resist it. But for the wise, this stage of life becomes something else entirely. It becomes freedom. Freedom from rushing. Freedom from proving. Freedom from chasing things that no longer call your soul. Because when you stop fighting the truths of aging, something remarkable happens. Life begins to feel lighter. You start choosing peace over pressure, depth over noise, presence over performance.
You learn that happiness is no longer something to be chased. It is something to be protected. And that protection begins with acceptance. In this video, we will uncover 8 bitter truths about getting old. These truths are rarely spoken honestly. They are often avoided, softened, or ignored, even though everyone eventually faces them. They may sting at first. They may awaken memories you've tried to quiet. But once accepted, they can change how you live your remaining years. Not with fear, not with regret, but with calm, with wisdom, and with a dignity that only time can teach. So take a breath, set aside distractions, and listen carefully, because these truths are not here to discourage you. They are here to free you. Let us begin. Point 1 of the hardest truths of growing older is coming to terms with this simple reality. Not everyone you love will walk beside you to the end of your journey. When you are younger, you assume continuity. You believe friendships will last forever. You believe family will always be close. You believe that shared history guarantees shared futures. But time teaches otherwise. Some people leave because of distance. Careers move them. Families grow in different directions. Life pulls them into places where visits become rare and calls become shorter. Others leave because of time itself, not through conflict or anger, but through slow fading. Days turn into weeks. Weeks turn into years. And one day, you realize the silence has become permanent. And then there are those who leave simply because life reshapes people. Values change. Priorities shift. And paths that once ran side by side quietly separate. You may notice that people you once spoke to every day now feel like strangers. Friends you laughed with, struggled with, and trusted deeply no longer call. Even family members, wrapped in responsibilities, obligations, and distractions, may only appear during holidays, emergencies, or moments of necessity.
This realization can feel painful. It can feel personal. It can feel like abandonment. But here is the truth many people struggle to accept. It is not always neglect. It is not always betrayal. It is life reminding us that nothing is permanent. not even connection. And resisting this truth only deepens the pain. Because when you expect people to stay forever, you turn relationships into contracts instead of experiences. And no human bond was ever meant to survive unchanged by time. But here is the deeper truth, the one that brings peace when accepted. Loneliness is not always a punishment. Often, it is an invitation to slow down, an invitation to listen inward, an invitation to rediscover yourself without the noise of others' expectations. Solitude strips away performance. It removes the need to entertain, impress, or explain. And in that quiet, something powerful begins to grow. Self-trust. You begin to rely on your own presence, your own thoughts, your own ability to sit with silence without fear. Solitude teaches you that peace does not come from constant company. It comes from inner alignment. Those who age will learn this secret early. Peace does not come from who stays. It comes from who you become when others leave. When you stop clinging to people out of fear, relationships soften. You appreciate them without demanding permanence. You welcome presence without resenting absence. And when you stop expecting others to fill emotional spaces they were never meant to carry, suffering begins to loosen its grip. This truth is not about bitterness. It is about maturity. It is about understanding that every person who walked beside you served a purpose for a season. Some taught you joy. Some taught you pain. Some taught you love. And some taught you how to let go. And none of those lessons were wasted. At this stage of life, you begin to recognize something quietly powerful.
The people who remain, even if they are few, are there not because of obligation, but because of choice. And that makes their presence meaningful beyond measure. So this truth is not about losing people. It is about learning discernment. Learning who truly values your presence when there is nothing left to offer but honesty. When conversation slows. When energy fades. When all that remains is time, truth, and shared silence. When you accept that not everyone will stay, you stop feeling abandoned by life. You stop measuring your worth by attendance. And you begin to feel something far more grounding. Contentment. Because in the end, the most important relationship you will ever have is the one you maintain with yourself. And when that relationship is strong, no absence can truly empty you. There comes a quiet morning when you wake up and realize something has changed. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but undeniably. Your body no longer responds the way it once did. The legs that carried you effortlessly now hesitate at the stairs. The hands that once worked without rest ache when lifting a cup. Your balance feels less certain. Your energy fades sooner than expected. You did not choose this. It simply arrived. And for many older adults, this moment brings fear, frustration, even shame. Because society taught you to associate strength with worth, speed with value, productivity with dignity. So when the body slows down, the mind interprets it as failure, as weakness, as loss. But that belief, more than aging itself, creates suffering. Here is the truth most people never hear. Your body is not betraying you. It is protecting you. Every ache is not a malfunction. It is a message. A signal shaped by decades of effort, endurance, and resilience. Every slowdown is not a punishment.
It is a boundary. Your body saying, "You have done enough. Let me care for you now." And every wrinkle is not decay. It is evidence. Proof that you lived, endured, and survived what many never could. The body you inhabit today is not broken. It is seasoned. It has carried you through work, stress, heartbreak, illness, responsibility, and years of waking up when you didn't feel ready. And now, it asks for a different relationship. Not control, but cooperation. Many people spend their later years trapped in comparison, comparing today's body to yesterday's strength, comparing themselves to others who seem to age better, comparing reality to memory. But comparison only creates resentment. The wise shift their questions. They stop asking, "Why can't I do what I used to?" and instead ask, "What can I still do, and how can I honor it?" Can you walk a short distance without pain? That is a gift. Can you breathe deeply and without struggle? That is a gift. Can you wake up and feel gratitude, even on difficult days? That is a gift. These may seem small, but they are victories earned through time. Aging gracefully does not mean pretending you are young. It means listening closely, listening to when the body asks for rest, when it asks for warmth, when it asks for gentler movement. It means feeding yourself with care instead of punishment, moving with patience instead of force, resting without guilt instead of shame. The body no longer exists to serve ambition. It exists to support peace. And when you stop fighting it, something remarkable happens. Pain softens. Anxiety lessens. Acceptance grows. You begin to understand that aging is not the body failing the mind. It is the body teaching the mind a new way to live. Time is not your enemy. Resistance is. The moment you stop resisting age, your body stops feeling like an obstacle and starts feeling like a companion, one that carried you through life and deserves your kindness now.
And in that kindness, a quieter strength is born. A strength not measured by speed or power, but by wisdom, patience, and peace. That is the strength that lasts. When you were younger, money felt like everything. It represented security, status, safety. It promised protection from uncertainty and fear. It felt like the answer to problems you hadn't faced yet. So you worked longer hours. You sacrificed rest. You postponed joy. You told yourself, "I'll slow down later." Money became the measure of success, of responsibility, of self-worth. And for many years, that belief kept you moving. But then, quietly, something changes. After 70, money begins to lose its grip, not because it disappears, but because its limits become undeniable. You realize money cannot buy back health once it's gone. It cannot restore strength to a tired body. It cannot extend time. And it cannot purchase one more sunrise with someone you've already lost. No amount of savings can undo a diagnosis. No investment can replace a memory. No wealth can bargain with time. And this realization, while sobering, is also liberating, because it reveals a powerful truth. The older you get, the less you actually need. The desire for excess fades. Closets full of clothes lose their appeal. Homes filled with things begin to feel heavy rather than comforting. Simple meals taste better because they nourish rather than impress. Comfort becomes more valuable than luxury. Quiet becomes richer than noise. And slowly, almost without noticing, your definition of wealth changes. Wealth becomes peace of mind. It becomes predictability. It becomes the ability to rest without worry. This doesn't mean money stops mattering. It means money finally returns to its proper place. A tool, not a master. You stop serving it.
Stop chasing it. Stop letting it define your value. Instead, you use it wisely. To care for your health. To simplify your life. To remove unnecessary stress. To help others where you can. To enjoy small, meaningful comforts without guilt. At this stage of life, spending becomes intentional. Every dollar reflects a choice. Every purchase asks a question. Does this bring peace or pressure? And when peace is the goal, the answers become clearer. The irony is that many people feel richer in later life, even with less, because they no longer live in fear of not having enough. They have learned that enough is not a number. It is a feeling. The richest person in this stage of life is not the one with the largest account balance. It is the one who sleeps through the night without worry. The one who wakes up without anxiety. The one who knows they no longer have anything to prove. Money can support life, but it cannot define it. And when you finally understand that, You gain a freedom no paycheck ever provided. A quiet freedom. A grounded freedom. The freedom of knowing that your worth was never tied to what you earned, only to how you lived. And that is a wealth that time cannot take away. In your younger years, you cared deeply about what others thought, not because you were weak, but because approval once felt necessary for survival. You dressed to impress. You spoke carefully, choosing words that would be accepted. You adjusted your behavior to fit expectations, even when it meant hiding parts of yourself. You learned early that praise brought safety and rejection brought discomfort. So you adapted. You complied. You performed. And for a long time, that performance felt normal. But as the years pass, something begins to shift. After 70, something quiet yet powerful happens. You stop performing, not out of rebellion, not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. You begin to realize that opinions have never carried the weight you gave them.
They do not add years to your life. They do not ease your pain. They do not share your responsibilities. And they do not walk with you through sleepless nights. Most opinions come from people who have never lived your life, never faced your choices, never carried your burdens. And yet, for decades, you allowed those opinions to shape how you moved through the world. Aging removes that illusion. You understand now that pleasing everyone required silencing yourself. And silence came at a cost. So you begin to let go. You stop explaining decisions that need no justification. You stop apologizing for being who you are. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable. You are what feels right on your body, not what is fashionable or approved. You speak what feels true, not what is safe or expected. You choose peace over politeness. This shift is not arrogance. It is liberation. When you no longer fear being misunderstood, you gain the courage to be authentic. And authenticity, in later life, becomes a form of self-respect. Ironically, when approval stops being your goal, respect often follows. Because people sense when someone is no longer pretending. You begin to live from the inside out, guided by values instead of validation. You no longer measure your worth by applause. You measure it by alignment. Does this choice bring peace? Does it feel honest? Does it honor the life you have lived? If the answer is yes, outside opinions lose their power. This stage of life teaches a profound lesson. You were never meant to be liked by everyone. You were meant to be true to yourself. Freedom does not come from acceptance. It comes from self-trust. And when approval ends, something beautiful begins. A life lived without apology, without performance, without fear. A life finally lived on your own terms. Everyone carries regrets. No one reaches old age without them. They arrive quietly, often uninvited, in the middle of the night, during moments of silence, when the world slows down and memory speaks. Regret takes many forms. Words that were never spoken when they mattered most. Chances that felt too risky at the time. Love that was felt deeply but never expressed fully. Decisions made out of fear rather than faith. And when you were younger, you believed there will always be time to correct these things. Time to apologize. Time to try again. Time to say what was left unsaid. But aging teaches a difficult truth. Some moments do not return. And this realization can feel heavy. Not because you lived wrongly, but because you lived humanly. The mistake many people make is believing that regret defines them, that it is proof of failure, that it diminishes the value of their life. But regret is not a sentence. It is evidence of awareness. You only regret what you cared about. You only mourn what mattered. Wisdom in later life does not come from erasing regret. It comes from understanding it, from seeing it not as a wound, but as a teacher. Acceptance begins when you forgive your younger self. You forgive them for not knowing what you know now, for making choices with limited experience, for surviving in circumstances that demanded strength, not perfection. Your younger self did not have today's clarity. They had fear, pressure, responsibility, and uncertainty. And yet, they carried you forward. They did the best they could with the tools they had. When you truly understand this, self-blame begins to soften. You stop reopening doors that time has already closed. You stop replaying conversations that can no longer be changed. You stop punishing yourself for paths not taken, because constantly rewriting the past keeps you trapped inside it. Peace does not come from correction. It comes from compassion. The present moment is the only place where life still lives. And when you remain anchored there, regret loosens its grip. You begin to focus on what can still be done, what can still be said, what love can still be shown today. Regret becomes lighter when it no longer carries guilt, when it becomes understanding instead of punishment. At this stage of life, wisdom whispers something simple and profound. You are not here to be perfect. You are here to be present. And when you live fully in the present, with honesty, kindness, and awareness, the past finally rests, not erased, but accepted. And in that acceptance, peace finds you. Aging is not a punishment. It is not a mistake. And it is not something to be ashamed of. Aging is a refinement. It is life slowly removing what is unnecessary. The rushing, the proving, the fear of not being enough. What remains is what truly matters. When you accept the bitter truths of aging, something remarkable happens. Life begins to feel lighter, not because problems disappear, but because you stop carrying what no longer belongs to you. You stop fighting time. You stop resisting change. You stop measuring yourself by standards that were never meant for this season of life. And in that acceptance, peace begins to settle quietly, not loudly, not dramatically, but deeply. You realize that you no longer need to impress anyone. You no longer need to chase approval. You no longer need to rush toward a future that once felt urgent. You have earned the right to slow down. You have earned the right to choose calm over chaos, truth over appearance, meaning over noise. These years are not about accumulation. They are about release. Releasing resentment, releasing regret, releasing the need to control what cannot be controlled.